Started. All right, so we should be live right now. For those of you guys, if any of you guys press this video, pretty much it's not going to be a typical interview. This is going to be, something a little more casual. Because for those of you that maybe do not know this, but I'm hoping to be a basketball coach one day or something in that sort of industry. And I'm currently a team manager at my school right now, and I know that you're one at your college. So I just got tons of questions for you. I'm sure I've been doing this stuff for a while. So yeah, I guess we'll just get right into it. I want to know, like, because for some people, for some managers, they're just doing it just because like they got the opportunity, they want to take it, like stuff like that. But for you, like being a manager in college, like when you were in high school, did you know like I want to be a manager in college as well and kind of do the path like that way?
Yeah. So when I first became a manager, I was thinking, hey, like, what could I do? I want to coach. What could I do to help me get there? So I was thinking, oh, manager, perfect. Get to know the game. Had a great coach in high school, Coach Carr. I owe him the world. I owe him all my success that I have to this point. It's just a great experience. You get to obviously, there's some of the manager things like picking up the balls, filling up the water bottles and all that stuff. But it's more than that. That's what regular people that aren't really in the industry don't realize, is that there's more to that. You're sitting in all these practices with all these great players, great coaches and everything. So you're just learning so much information. And you're like, wow, like this is really helpful. It's not just cleaning up the floor, filling up the water bottles. It's really, wow, I'm learning a lot of information here.
Yeah. And you mentioned like Coach Carr. He is a great coach. All the stuff he did, unbelievable guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, like, what sorts of things did he do for you? Because I have a great coach as well, but I feel like he's like never. I don't know if maybe you're the first one also at university school. Like, I don't think my school's ever had a guy like me that came to the school and said, I want to be the manager. Like, usually it's all the guys that were like borderline making the team, and they just kind of said, do this, and you could practice this too, and just get yourself better. Like, I don't think I've ever had someone volunteer to wipe up sweat and do stuff like that because they want to get into coaching. Like, what sorts of things did he do for you that helped you so much?
Well, he really guided the way for me. He just showed me the in and outs. I'd have a free period my senior year during seventh period, which was our last period of the day. I would go sit in his office. We just talk about basketball, talk about practice. So just getting me in on all that type of information just really helped me out. It was just like huge. Just 1 hour a day talking about basketball, talking about practice, talking about how we could prepare for other teams. Just huge help.
So you were pretty much like an assistant coach in a way, as well as I guess during practice, like doing the manager stuff. But at least during that period, like it was like you were living the life of an assistant coach.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Obviously, I wasn't doing like, oh, this is what we're gonna do for today, but just being on the ins and outs of everything. Sometimes I would go to coaches' meetings, so just being a part of all of it. And the thing with managers is like you really got to be proactive. For me, it didn't just fall in my lap. I really push for everything. I'd be like, hey, can I join in on a coaches meeting? Hey, do you think that I can look up or watch you while you scout this other team? Hey, can I just see what we're going to do for practice? Just being very proactive really helps you in your programming because people are like, wow, he wants to know the game. He wants to learn the game and he really wants to help us win. And that's what coaches love.
Yeah, that's facts. Like I even remember like my coach, so pretty much we got shut down because of the virus and everything like that because the team we recently played got it. So I think Tuesday will be clear to go back to normal, but at least for now, like we're shut down doing nothing. But the very last time we're there, which I didn't know was going to be the last time, but I guess I saw him go on the phone call where like this someone was telling him like, yeah, you guys need to shut down because the team you played got the virus or whatever. But I remember, so we had a little shoot around. So I showed up to our, because I can't hoop, so I show up to our volunteer shoot around thing. Because just to be around the game, like that's obviously helpful. I've gotten advice before too. And then after he was training two of our like alumni, so I was like, hey, like can I stay around, like just watch you or help you train the other guys? And it's kind of what I did because like that is for people, anybody watching, like it is important to have an initiative. Like again, I walk into the school. I don't know about like your journey and stuff like that and how you got a spot even at university school, but for me, like I walked in. I'm the oldest sibling in my family. Like I knew nobody there. I just walked in, like found his office, like asked the coach like how to do this stuff and yeah. But going like stuff you do in practice, like are there any sort of tasks that you think you did during practice during games that maybe helped you build your basketball IQ, or was it more like they just gave you the basic manager jobs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on what coach you have. I'm not just going to sit here and tell you, oh, you're going to be a practice player. It really depends on what kind of players you need, if you need extra players, etc. Like right now at Hofstra, we do scouts. So sometimes I have to hop in there, play as one of the other players, screen and roll type actions and all that stuff. In high school, I'd hop in some drills, but, obviously it's something serious. So just being in those positions, as a scout or looking at the scouting side of coaching, you look and be like, oh, this is the reason that we're doing this, because they like to drive and kick. So by doing this will help us. So it's like, it helps, but also seeing it from the outside, you just really got to lock in during practice. It kind of sounds silly, be like a manager locking into practice, but like if that's what you want to do, if you lock in, you learn so much so quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely what I do too. But the one part is like, because obviously, like the first job is to lock in on what you want to do. Like I've been showing up to practice, and I tell my friends, I'm like, all right, guys, like, yo, I'm locked in today. Like, unless he goes off schedule, like he's never gonna say a word to me the whole practice. But the problem is like doing that stuff, being so focused on your task at hand, where because you can't mess that up either, because you do that, like it's almost like as much as you're helping them too. At least for me, like I feel like they're doing me a favor, letting me be around there, stuff like that. So I gotta make sure whatever I'm doing is right, as perfect as I could be. But just the hardest part is like being able to do both at the same time. Like, was that ever a challenge for you where you maybe had to keep track of some sort of number, like have to keep starting and stopping like the shot clock or a timer or something like that, where you're not able to focus and learn the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely sometimes a struggle. I mean, now like we run sets of plays, like 3 or 4 at a time, and I'm writing them down on the board, to make sure the guys don't remember. But then I also have the duty, if one of them falls, I got to get up there and I got to wipe the floor so that nobody falls, nobody gets injured. So it's kind of like locking in, but you got to be aware. Just like multitasking, it is really not as difficult as it might sound, but just locking in. But obviously you got to remember, like, you're still a manager and you still got to do your part.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like over time, like I'm sure maybe like as long as we get to keep practicing and nothing gets like shut down anymore, like obviously the beginning of the season, because I chose to be a JV manager for the first 2 years because I wanted to try to play a little bit. And when you're like with JV, like you got to practice and like I got to play like for a couple minutes and all that stuff. So that's kind of why I chose to go the JV route first, because I wanted to do like the playing stuff too a little bit, just to have some fun with it, and because it is still good to play and do that too. That just helps your IQ even more. But now like I guess like it's like a different style of practice. Like he gives us a schedule, and I have to pretty much do the clock the whole time. In the beginning, I just remember, like he was telling me every single thing to do. Like he's trying to run practice and telling me, because I was new to this, like I didn't know, so he wasn't mad, but it's kind of like, gave I guess them a distraction. But now in the middle of the year, that's kind of easier to lock in, I guess, in that aspect. But when did you start like knowing that you wanted to do something in basketball and started trying to chase that goal? Because for me, like I started in 9th grade, like but right in the beginning of 9th grade, but I even feel like that wasn't even enough time for me. Like I don't really know how much time I got to really develop my all that stuff. But when did you like really start to take basketball seriously?
So throughout my whole life, I've been a guy who switched up sports a lot. I've played football, soccer, basketball, baseball. I've played almost everything. And it was my 10th grade year. I tried out for the JV team because I didn't make it in 9th grade. And I tried out, and they were like, oh, you didn't make it, but we'll give you a team manager job. I was like, okay, it doesn't sound bad. Obviously, at that time, an unrealistic goal for me was to play college basketball somewhere.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, is it really realistic? And I was like, the perfect thing for me to do is coach. You're still in the game, you're still around people that you like to be around. That's when it all started. I was a JV manager in 10th grade. I still practice. I still I did the basic stuff. So don't think that you still can't play and be a manager. And in 11th grade, before I went up to varsity with university school, I actually played JV again for the whole season. And I joined university school's varsity team as a manager for the second half of the season. And then obviously the full season for my senior year.
Okay. So I guess we are like totally similar in terms of when we started all that stuff. But for me, I never had a goal of playing college basketball, but I guess honestly, my goal was to play high school basketball. And I knew I even knew that was unrealistic for myself. But I still like tried out and whatever. Like you never know. Like, I don't regret like trying out and all that stuff. But would you say like when by the time like your 10th grade year, did you really like know a lot to be a coach or stuff like that, or were you kind of still doing that stuff? Because at least for me personally, like I don't know if I could coach like a team like legit. Like I'm sure I could coach like a rec league team and just tell them the base, like maybe even like stay and help, even if that's too complex for them. But I could coach like a basic team, but I feel like coaching, like I don't think I'm there yet. I don't know like when you were in high school, like your senior year, did you feel like you could really coach a team or not
What
really?
So when I started in 10th grade, like everybody when they start like watching basketball, like the basics, but you don't really know like the more advanced stuff like plays, what works against certain defenses, what works against certain ball screens and all that type of stuff. So as I've gone through 10th, 11th, mostly 11th and 12th, I learned more about that stuff. And I was like, okay, like, I feel like I can really do this. But just right when you get to college, there's so many more plays, so much more that goes into it because it's like everybody's lives depend on it because people are trying to go pro, coaches are trying to get even better, and they're trying to get better jobs and everything. And it's just like taking it to a whole nother level. And I'm not trying to sound intimidating. It's great. Like it's great to be around. It's like, wow, like all this information I'm just learning so quickly. Like in 2 years of college, or 1.5, it's been absurd the amount of information that I felt that I've learned and that, I thought that I knew it all and I didn't.
So I guess, can you tell me maybe right now you could maybe coach like an AAU team, maybe run like a couple sets and stuff like that? Would you say you're at that level? And if so, like maybe going into college, would you also say you're at that same level, or do you think like just being at college, for a year and a half, what really helped you get to that level?
Yeah. So right now, as of this past summer, we started, me and Coach Carr and a couple other coaches started an AAU team called SoFlo Hoops. Obviously, we haven't had the opportunity to, get it started really. But I mean, I am an assistant with them. So, I mean, obviously, I haven't had technically my first coaching experience yet. But now I feel like I could probably not head coach, but assistant coach, because I still need that guidance. I'm still young. I still got a lot to learn. I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody that I know everything because I don't. It's too young. There's so much more to the game to know it. And I'm only 19 years old. But in high school, I would have said that I could coach an AAU team that I think now, but realistically, probably a rec league team. Because, AAU and all that stuff is so important for kids going to get into college. And just me not knowing that information, I couldn't do that to those kids.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how you said the whole thing. Like, I feel like I maybe couldn't head coach, I'd be an assistant coach, because me personally, like those assistant, like they could every assistant coach, I feel like could be a head coach. Maybe assistant coach, Hofstra or something like that could maybe not be the head coach at Hofstra, but they could all be a head coach of at least a varsity high school basketball team. Like that's I feel like assistant coaches and head coaches, like I see them as equal in terms of their IQs and stuff like that. Like I feel like every assistant coach could drop the right play, for a game-winning shot and all that. So I feel like, if I could have the knowledge of an assistant coach, like I think that could head coach a few teams too, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like the managing stuff in general and even how practices go, like I don't know how stuff was at U school, but is managing like and being able to learn, is that easier in college than it is in high school?
I mean, yeah, but then again, it's about you, stepping up and being like, I want to learn. So somebody here at Hofstra who I owe a lot of my success to and a lot of my learning to is Coach Fairley, our associate head coach, who's filling in for Coach Mahalik right now because he's on medical leave. But I owe a lot to him. He's put a lot of responsibilities in my hand. He's put a lot of trust in my hands. I've done one or two scouts so far. I did a scout for St. Bonaventure, which helped them a lot, because they got so much on their plate. They got to watch video, got to watch whatever. And I just giving them stats and everything, it shows that you want to be responsible, that you want to help the team win, and that you're reliable. So just doing all that stuff can really help them. And again, like I've asked to be a GA here now for when I graduate, but I'm, again, not sure what I'm doing. He said 100%. So just having that confidence in yourself to be like, I can do it, and just trying to take on more responsibility than just, filling the waters, going to get snacks and all that stuff, because you got to learn and you got to show people that you know what you're doing, because connections, again, your head coach could know somebody in the NBA and they'd be like, oh yeah, this guy's a really hard worker. He really loves his job and he wants to, work at the highest level, and you never know where it'll lead you.
Yeah. And you actually mentioned the reason why, like, I'm probably not going to ask really any connection questions, even though I know that's like what's the important part, because again, like I'm talking, I mean, you could be a connection for me too one day, like talking and making connections, like that comes natural to me. So I'm kind of just all about asking people how to literally learn how to coach, all that stuff, because I kind of understand the whole connections are important, because that's what everyone says. But again, like, and if I ever do another talk, if you guys are going to ever watch this, like the full thing. If I ever do another conversation with a coach, something like that, I will always say my biggest fear is that because I do a lot of networking or a decent amount. Like I've talked to a few college coaches, some I talk to like monthly and all that stuff just to keep in touch. My biggest fear is I'm going to get this job. I'm going to be the assistant coach. They're going to say, all right, Isaac, like go, like coach, and I'm going to be clueless because I did all this networking, but I pretty much didn't really know what I was doing. But just about, you said you did like some scouting stuff. Like, did they tell you what to do first, or did you just volunteer? Like, I want to do this, but then not really know like what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I would volunteer for doing that as well when I get to like the college level, but would they like then expect you to know exactly what to do? Because I would have no idea probably.
Yeah. So what a lot of people here have helped me with is, what is expected. So they don't really just throw you in the fire. They're like, oh, like we had like a 2-week break, and they were like, oh, like here's some practices, clip defensive, offensive rebounds, blocks, charges, like just certain stuff. And, they're like, oh, this is how you clip a video on this program. Knowing the programming helps. What Coach Fairley told me was, knowing a guy like me that knows how to scout, break down the numbers, knows how to do film, knows how to break down film, knows how to upload film at my age or our age is absurd. There's not a lot of people out there that can do that. And just knowing that, and just knowing that I can do it repeatedly here, and them giving me that freedom to do it, and them trusting me so much, which I appreciate, just it really helps.
And the things that you said, I'm wondering because something I've been asking some coaches, and no one can really give me an answer. But you just listed like a few things that you could do, and coach like, yeah, it's like super impressive. If you're trying to get to that coaching level, what sorts of things should I maybe know how to do, like in my junior year, or by the end of my junior year, or even going into my senior, or even by the time I graduate high school? What sorts of things should I know if I'm trying to get to that coaching path?
Yeah. So I don't think being a junior in high school, you don't need to know everything about programming and stuff, because you have to remember that you're going to college and these coaches really don't know a lot about you. They're just like, hey, like what happened with me is Coach Carr called Coach Fairley and was like, hey, like I got a guy for you. He'd love to be a manager. He's like, oh, that's awesome. So they don't really know what you know yet. So just being willing to learn, be like, hey, like I really want to be a coach one day. Can you help me out with this? Or can you show me some film stuff? Even if they don't like teach it to you the first time, just sitting in and watching can just be so informational. It's really good though to just sit in on stuff, obviously learn. You don't want to get there and just be like the first day you're there, oh, can I do this, this, and this? You got to kind of grow trust, grow responsibility, show them that you're hardworking first. And then once you do that, be like, hey, like I'm looking to take on a little bit more responsibility and more work. And if there's anything that you need me to do, that's what I always say. I'm always saying, if there's anything you need me to do, just let me know. And coaches really do appreciate that, because what my definition of a manager is making people's lives around the office and the court easier. And if I can do that, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I guess I actually have a question about like kind of taking that initiative, because honestly, like so my coach, he's a great basketball coach. My school's been open for it's a pretty new school. Like I think it was built sometime in like the early 2000s, but as soon as the school was open and whatever, he's never gotten fired. So obviously, he's a great coach. I highly respect him, and I like he understands like my goals and stuff like that. But having these conversations, I'm trying to take this winter break to talk to people like you and just kind of grow my game, like figure out things I could do to get myself better. And like now, like yesterday, I asked him a question, like because I spoke to a USF video coordinator, and he told me how like something big for him and learning this stuff was kind of hopping in drills, like what you said, setting screens and just doing all that kind of basic stuff. Like helped him grow the game more. So I hit him up. I said like, hey, you think I can maybe do this? Like, of course, I'll get everything else you need out of the way done, but I'm wondering like if I could do that. And then I hit him up like maybe a couple days before. Like I said, there's this drill I think would be great for our practices. Like he loved it, but I'm wondering like, do you think maybe is there ever too much like reaching out? Like, of course, like it's all good ideas, but would you say like if I hit up right after this and said like, hey, like I would want to do this for you, even if though I already offered you something yesterday, is it kind of like you should be spread that out a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, coaches love showing that you want responsibility, but I mean, obviously, well, for me, or there can be a limit, but just showing that you want to work hard, I don't really think there's a limit for that, because showing dedication and wanting to work hard, coach, like people could think it's annoying, but if you're a coach, you got to be like, wow, like this guy wants to be a winner. This guy wants to accomplish things in life. And just showing that, even if he's like, oh, he hits me up every week to try and do work, that sounds good. Like you're not annoying him and being like, oh, can I come watch your practices? Oh, can I steal your film to watch it? Like it's like you're trying to offer help, and coaches love that.
Yeah, so I'm going to here. I'm pretty much gonna give you a timeline because so pretty much we'll start. So on let's see. Okay, so on Wednesday, December 16th, I gave him a suggestion of what we could do during our practice. All right, then let's see. The next time I spoke to him, pretty much that was like I guess coaching ish related. Was on Saturday the 19th, where I sent him like another cool idea, and then he's like, yeah, like he's like, yeah, we've done this, like it's great, and he said like, see, you are learning, like whatever. Then I sent him something on the he sometimes doesn't respond, but that's how he responded. Then I sent him a play on the 21st, so 2 days after. I showed it to one of the assistant coaches, like, yeah, like that's awesome that you like pick that up or whatever. And then I think, let's see, we'll ask him, okay. Then the 22nd, I just asked him, I could just go to our optional shoot around, whatever. Let's see. Then pretty much the last time I hit him up was Tuesday about the whole like USF opting in thing. So if I asked him today, like, you know, could I do this for you? Is that too frequently, or does it again like not really matter?
See, here's my thing. It's not that it's too frequent. It's what can you do because you're outside of college. You know, you're not a manager there.
I already know. Like, I'll tell you exactly what I would do because I know we have a website, or he made a website pretty much to get recruited. So I want to ask him, and I know he wants me to get involved in it, but he hasn't offered me yet. But you know, I'll just he said like I want you to get involved in this. So I said okay, but then he just hasn't really told me anything yet. So I'll probably hit him up about that. And yeah, because there's stuff I know like I could do and offer him. Like I'm not just gonna make up something to make it seem like I'm doing more work for him. Like I know what I want to tell him, but I don't know that like that's too frequently and stuff like that.
So one thing I could say is trying to put it in a form of a question, be like, oh, wouldn't this be good for the website? Like doing it like that.
Well, I would just offer, I would say like, hey, like I understand you told me like you wanted help with the website or anything like that. Like just let me know. Like I would love to step in and help you, just give me a plan or something like that.
Or just be like, hey, if we could have a phone call and I can explain to you some of my ideas that I have for the website, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, like, I'm not gonna lie, the website he made, I told him this. I said, I'm so surprised how good your website looks. Like, that's why I told him. Like, it was a pretty nice website. But I guess, would you say, so I just want to, like, is that too frequently or is that kind of just fine?
No, success isn't just gonna fall into your lap. You got to go get it. Like is coming from like the notion of basketball. A player just doesn't become talented. You got to go out there and succeed. You got to go get your stuff done. You got to do what you got to do to succeed.
Yeah, and I'm actually wondering, like, about you playing basketball. Like, can you hoop at a decent level? Like, I don't know, do you guys have manager games, or can you not really play? Because if you can, like, is that a big advantage to being a manager?
I mean, I'm like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably like a 4 or 5. I'm a very average basketball player. Okay. But for me, I looked at the game a lot differently. Like my dad, and I would watch games like very in depth. My brother and I too would watch games very in depth. So like just watching it at a different level. And like I watched a lot of certain players when I was younger. Like I loved like highlights of Magic Johnson, Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm still a very big guy, man. I like to watch centers play, just their footwork and all that stuff across the basket. So I feel like I have a better understanding of centers. Like when I came into college, I had no idea like there was like different ball screen defenses really. Like obviously I know there's under, over, but I didn't know
and stuff like that.
Exactly. So just learning more stuff, watching certain player highlights, if you're going to X college and they have a driver, maybe look at like John Morant highlights, finishing around the rim, see how you can help him improve his game and stuff like that. Just seeing it, obviously, we're still managers and we don't know everything, but just looking at like, let's say John Morant highlights and saying like, oh, he's doing what he does, or just saying like, hey, if you did a Euro step, maybe it would help you more finish on that side without being crowded in the paint.
Yeah, and would you say like, have you ever like, so do you tell players sometimes, like your freshman year, you came in like no one really knew you. None of the players knew you? Did you tell them stuff like let's say you saw them just during practice, like did you tell them like first practice they have no clue who you are, like hey, you should maybe do this next time or something like that? Like yo, you're great, but this can make you better, or anything like that? Or did you kind of have to ease into that thing kind of too, talking to players and helping them out? Because during practice, like something that helps me, I guess, stay engaged is, even if I'm wrong, I'll go up to somebody and tell them like, hey, like I saw you do this. Like I told the Thompson twins yesterday, I saw them. Like I guess they told me some other stuff. Like they said that they practice during their practice, but whatever's happening in the game today with the refs, like or yesterday, that they couldn't really do it. But they're posing someone up, and I'm like, when you're posing someone up, just scream, like get the ball from them. Like you're posing someone up, it's a complete mismatch. Like what are you doing? And that's kind of what I told him. That's something my coach stresses, which I agree in. Like if it's a mismatch, like even if the guy then is ready like for you and is like mentally prepared to start to guard you harder, like it's a mismatch. So what's the point? But would you say it's something you gotta kind of ease into when you come in as a freshman? Like don't just start, trying to help out the players right away.
Yeah. So for me, obviously, I've been told this many times, and I've been told this by, I don't know, I'm pretty sure that Remy Workouts.
Yep.
I went to his gym right when they pretty much opened, and I saw, John Wall, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Bembry, all those guys are hooping. And he told me, he was like, what do you want to do in basketball? I was like, I want to coach. And he goes, you know what 90% of it is? I go, what? He goes, just having a good personality, being a person that people want to be around. He told me Andre Drummond, Monday he'll come in and he'll love you, and Friday he'll want to throw a basketball at your head. So I kind of it's something you ease into. It's not that they don't think that you know what you're talking about, but like, how would you feel like if some like
I agree.
And said that, but like now I'm like, hey, like to my friend Kayvon, I'm like, hey Kayvon, during practice he drives really hard. It's really easy opportunity to take a charge. He's like, all right, let me look for it. Just giving them those little pieces of advice. You really don't think that you're doing a lot, but you really are, because you make them think a different way, and maybe they do it. He's taken a couple of charges now in practice. He took a charge today in practice. So it's really, the little information does really matter.
Yeah, and that's so crazy how you talk to. I mean, I've been trying to get Remy Workers. He doesn't even for me to get in Remy's DMs for a long time. He's a lost cause, but that's so crazy how you're able to have that opportunity. But I'm more like, you mentioned how you told him like, hey, this guy drives out, like be prepared to take a charge. Like that's so basic. I've been watching because I'm a junior. Like I was taking the ACT. Like I'm also gonna take it again because I want to go to a good college. But I'm starting to see like do even more research on the schools I want to go to. Like I've gone to a few colleges. When I go to this basketball stuff, I also kind of tied him to seeing a college. So I went to USF, got to even speak to a coach there, which is surprisingly the head coach, which I had no idea was the head coach. I even got his number, but he didn't respond because like he's busy. But that was very awkward because I had no idea he was the head coach and was treating him like a normal guy. So that was kind of weird, but I asked him a few questions about being a manager there. Seems like a great program. And then I was at UCF yesterday, saw the guy, player development person. I was able to catch him and ask him a few questions about it too. And it seems like a pretty solid program as well for managers. So I started going on YouTube and watching like whenever they had those like inside UCF basketball stuff that the school would put up for the fans to watch from a couple years ago. So I watched that. I saw the same thing for USF. And when they would show the coaches talking, like they would say some basic stuff. Like he would say like like defend, don't go like this, like put your hands like just the basic stuff. Like does it get though a lot more complex in college, or is it really just almost just the same things over and over again that I've been hearing in high school? Because telling a player just keep your hands straight up, like I mean like I thought they would kind of all know that already. Like are there a lot more complex things that they talk about in college, or are they usually just more not reviewing what but just keep saying the same stuff over and over again, which is good as well?
Yeah, so it's gonna sound a little crazy, but it really is a lot of the basics. The difference between high school and college is all these players are really like good. In high school, not everybody's going to college. These guys are really talented, and especially at this level, D1 mid-major, like they're really talented. But just a reminder of, hey, do put your hands up in the passing lane, you get a deflected pass. Like we play mostly like 99% of the time we play 2-3 zone, and putting your hands up in the passing lane is the difference between a catch and shoot three and a lob pass, and then you're boom right there in front of them ready to guard. So just the basics can really help. These kids are really, really talented.
So it really is just kind of still like, am I gonna walk into practice and they're gonna be saying like all these terms that I can't even think of and be like, wait, why is he saying this? Or is it really just, stuff that someone that's been like on a basketball team or been on a high school basketball team for at least like a season will be able to understand like right from the jump? Like, were there any things that the coaches were talking about that you were like, wait, what is that? Or was all stuff you already knew?
No, yeah, it's kind of stuff that you already knew, like you think like, oh, in high school, kids learn how to box out. We still do box out drills and close out drills almost every day. It's so important. We have defensive slides. We do those for at least 2.5 minutes every day. It's really just the basics, it's the principles of our program and, just the basics. These, as I said before, these kids are really talented. Like they don't need, like we have skill workouts and practice, it's just for reiterating the basics and just learning new stuff, learning new plays and learning about the other teams that we're going to play.
And it seems like you're kind of passionate about like the Hofstra program. Obviously you love Coach Carr as well at U School. Something that I've been thinking about a lot is like when I'm a coach, I honestly feel like if I somehow got enough coaching knowledge, all from my high school coach, like to be, a coach already to coming out of high school, let's say I somehow like also turn like 10 years older, like the span of a day, so I could be a literal coach. But I just feel like he's just like, I like respect him a lot. And I love what he does. And he's probably the only coach I've probably ever been with ever. So I feel like the way I'd be as a coach would be very similar to him. Would you say the same thing for you? Like the coaches you've been around are going to pretty much affect the way you are as a coach if you even get there? Because again, like it is difficult. But if you do become a coach, you say that like Coach Carr and the coaches at Hofstra are going to be like pretty much both shown in the way you become as a coach, or do you think you kind of have your own unique style too?
Yeah. So as I kind of said before, these coaches, they knew each other. And it was really weird because when I came to college, I was like, okay, like this is going to be really different. But a lot of the stuff they do is really the same, like writing down a practice plan, each like the smallest thing, segments of practice being some odd minutes, and having a clock run and having timed practices, writing even pregame stuff, writing on the board, player matchups, what our offense is, what our defense is. And I looked and during our first game, I was like, wow, like this is really similar. And just buying into that culture of here and at U School, but mostly here, we have a very good culture that I love here. Just buying into that culture here, I think is really going to influence me as a coach if I do make it.
So is it at all bad, like to almost be, I doubt I will be like an exact replica, but like, is it bad if I somehow came out like very similar to the coaches I've been with? Like should every coach try to be themselves? Like obviously, of course, I am my own unique different person, but
exactly.
I guess the literal coaching stuff, because if it's all I've seen and all I've like been taught from, then that's obviously going to be like who I am. Is that a bad thing for
No.
to be very similar to the people that they've been learning from the whole time?
I don't think that is at all. I mean, especially coming from my perspective, Coach Carr, one of the most successful coaches I've ever met in my life. He's doing great now at IMG stuff. Coach Fairley and Coach Mahalik, they've been running almost the same type of stuff for 7, 8, 9 years together. And it works, And if I see something that works, why change it? It sounds like very like, oh, he's just copying what they're doing. But it's just having that culture, having that success, like, wow, this is what I can do to succeed. Just having that kind of like laid out for you. It's great, in my opinion.
And you say, like, I guess like if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I guess kind of like I guess that kind of cliche thing. But in terms of plays, because I asked my coach, like that's one thing I feel like I may not be able to do is make a basketball play. I doubt I can make a play. Like maybe I cannot make up my own play. But I asked my coach, like, hey, could you, like, are you able to make up plays? And he said, well, like the plays, I run, like he kind of takes some, from stuff you've seen, and then he'll like kind of put his own twist to it. Do you think that you can do that right now? Because again, like if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Like the play is gonna work. So why do I need to put my own little twist to this play if it works like normally?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you want to add your own stuff to it, but I mean, what am I thinking? Sorry. It's gonna work, but I mean, certain plays aren't just made just because. It's because certain defenses do certain things. Like not every man play that you have is going to work in certain defenses, because if they're playing like heavy nail help and they're leaning over in the passing lanes, a simple kick out off a screen is going to work. But if they're very lax and you have the paint and you can flip it back to the center, it's all very different. It's not just these plays work against every man defense and these plays work against every zone defense. It's really adding your own twist to it based off of the defenses. it's not solely based on your offense. You have to be aware that, this team plays this type of ball screen defense. This team plays this type of ball screen defense. So this man play will work, but this one won't for this certain team. So it's really adding your own spice to it in the sense of, obviously the play will work, but you would add what would work against that certain defense, if you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like it can almost be a play that let's say it was like a play designed to beat a zone, and then you almost change that up to beat a man defense. Is that kind of like something?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Some teams may play man like zone where they're leaning over in the paint, so it kind of looks like a 2-3 or a 3-2, depending on what kind of offense you're running. You never know what to expect. That's what film and scouting is such a key role in coaching, that say, hey, we can't run this action. Let's change it and do this instead. But it's the same format of the play.
And would you say you can make a basketball play right now? Like obviously not like right now, but do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. Last year they were showing me all these plays, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Now I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, like this makes sense because they're doing this thing. Then we can do this as a counterattack.
So you were at like one point or another like kind of clueless.
Yeah. I can't sit here and tell you I know everything again, but I mean, as like again, just locking in during practice, noticing certain plays are run during certain defensive segments, then you really do kind of pick up on it.
And more about the logistics of being a manager. Like when was your first day on the job? Like what month and all that stuff. Like when did you have first get onto campus and start your journey in college?
Okay, so freshman year was last year. I moved in August of 2019, and we started workouts. Got to meet a couple of the guys. I didn't really help out at that point because I was still clueless a little bit. I didn't know any players. I only knew one coach. Meeting the staff. That's one of the most crucial things. Leaving that first impression on players, because again, when you're a head coach, and you meet a player, you want to have that good impact, and just meeting the players, and then, watching what the other managers were doing, who are now some of my best friends, even though one of them's graduated, one of them's graduating in a couple weeks. What they've done for me, I can never repay them. They taught me the ways of this program, and that's something I can never repay them for. And just that push that they gave me, who knows, it can make the difference between me being a coach and me not. Just knowing the program, they're like, wow, like Max knows what he's doing. He's not messing around, and he's here to work.
Yeah, and you said here to work, but I know, like, weren't you like a camp counselor like this summer?
I was. So what I do, huh?
Oh yeah, so sorry. You can talk first, and I'll kind of say what
I kind of do there is I would, not to sound cocky, but like it's true. Like I'm like the most basketball knowledgeable person there. So like I like to teach a lot of lessons, teach kids how to play basketball. I would do that during like a free period, so to speak. Kids get to pick what they want to do. So I would do a lot of that, and kids would come up to me and go up to like other counselors, and the counselors would tell me, like, you made my kid love basketball. And like that's what you love to hear, especially as a coach. You're gonna have kids that never played before, and just hearing that reaction to what I do is just amazing.
Yeah, it's facts. And I guess the thing for me, like I love my sleepaway camp. Like I love it so much. And I know like the coach, like, you want to be a manager, like you gotta go to these camps, and like I'm more concerned that I'll need to pick between two things I love. Like I think, it really comes down to it, like business is business. I'll have to, just go to school and be like a manager from whenever they need me to start. But like, do you get your summer off? Like, would I be able to, at least like a session?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, there's only so much help that you can give during the summer. A lot of mostly all the players go home, and they have, what we do here is like 2 workout sessions during the like summer 1 and summer 2, and some guys come in and do workout sessions. So there's only so much that you can do, and especially because at least here, like the GAs do a lot of that. The graduate assistants, like they help a lot with that. I've never really been asked to stay. They wanted me to help out with like summer camps, and I was like, it's like the same thing I'm doing there, Yeah. And I have a lot of more responsibility at my sleepaway camp, summer camp. So I was like, let me just do this, and I'm going back this year again. A lot of people told me, oh, you should go to hoop group. Oh, you should do this, and I was like, at the end of the day, I'm still a teenager, you know? I only have so many years left until I really have to get it going. So why not enjoy them while I'm still working on
Yeah,
it?
definitely. Because at the same time, I mean, I know for a fact, like if I was all basketball, like I'll be honest with you, and I probably should do this more, but I don't really like watch NBA games too much because my whole day pretty much revolves around it's either school, which that's not really fun, but you got to do it. It's either school or I'm like reaching out to players, or I'm on Instagram, like trying to do something, which my whole Instagram feed's basketball, so I'm always seeing a basketball somewhere, or I'm talking to you like basketball, and I gotta make sure like at the end of the day I still do something away from basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm watching TV, usually my dad always has like my dad loves basketball too, but for some reason he falls asleep to Friends every night. So I'll be somehow like watching Friends, like when there could be this big time NBA game on, but like I don't want to be around basketball. Like see like this basketball, like
Exactly.
I don't want to be around basketball so much to where I'm not gonna like it like 3 years from now. Like I still got to make sure that if I have time, maybe now do something basketball. Like it's probably best to not do it. So I kind of get where you're coming from, but I was wondering just from like all logistics. So if let's say I was a counselor from June to let's say June to August, and I'm sure like my camp will let me leave early. If that's what you got to do, is that you get that time off in college, or would I?
Yeah. So we end in May actually, and then we start up again in August, and then we start workouts in like late August. Like team workouts because we're not allowed to have practice according to NCAA rules. So we just have a bunch of guys come in, do their thing. And yeah, I mean, being around basketball almost 24/7 is a lot, but I mean, I love it so much. And it's just like something I never feel like I'm gonna get over. Obviously it's different for a lot of people. Obviously, it's not like something that's just like easy to get onto your head. It's a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of thinking. You got to do a lot of information at all times. Especially with you have this amazing feed on Instagram, and it's just a lot of stuff that goes into it. And obviously, it is nice to get a break every once in a while. Like when I do go to my summer camp, obviously I'm not playing basketball.
Yeah, you are still on the game, but like it is nice to be like. I mean, I'm not a nature guy, but it's nice to be away from.
Exactly.
I feel like a dream day for me, would be at sleepaway camp,
Mm-hmm.
but also like a dream day for me would be in college, like practice all day, maybe eat lunch with the team, then another practice, and then like a game, and then come home at like midnight, and there'd be no homework, which would be awesome. That would be like a dream day for me too. So it's kind of just like, like I love basketball so much, but I also like, I just don't want to hate it at the end of the day. So like I could spend 24 hours around basketball, but then like I can't. I don't know if I could. I don't want to try. I'm too nervous to try, I guess. So and I probably will never want to try that out to see what would happen if I was around basketball. It was 24 hours for forever.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's a lot deeper than basketball. I've made a bunch of connections here, and obviously, you're with these guys almost or pretty much 6-7 days a week. I've really built a great connection with one of our centers, Isaac Conte. Great guy. He's my best friend. He's my brother. I'll do anything for him. Just going to get lunch with him right after practice, going to get dinner with him right after practice. It's just great. It's obviously, you're still talking about basketball sometimes, but you're just hanging out, having a good time, eating, spending time with friends,
And another logistic thing, just in terms of like getting friends in college, were you able to, join a fraternity and kind of have that normal college life too? Because I'm sure like also if I'm around the same people every day,
Mm-hmm.
like those managers are my only friends and managers, and maybe the team if the guys are nice. Like the managers and the team are only friends. Like that's good too. But like of course, like I want to meet other people outside of that too. Like when you were in college as a freshman, were you able to join a fraternity? Was that something easy for you to do and all that?
Yeah. So personally, I didn't join a fraternity, but I mean, it's definitely something that you could do, but it's just not a thing that I was very interested in. But I mean, making friends, it seems scary, but a big day for me was orientation. I met a bunch of people, and we ended up having a friend group like 7-8 people. We hung out a lot every weekend. We would, go out, hang out with each other, and just our neighbors. Because we were in a co-ed dorm, we met our girls next door. They were really great. I still talk to one almost every week. Just being out there. It's almost like coaching. Just being out there, putting yourself out there. It can really be life-changing.
For me, like I'm a friendly guy. Like I'm not afraid like of all these people. Like I'm just gonna like go in a corner and cry. Like I'm not like that. I'm more like I'm afraid there's not gonna be an opportunity for me to meet other people because like I told this one guy I was like, oh, like, I mean, you should really be a manager at your school. Like me, you could play, which would be good too. Like they'll like you for that, and
Mhm.
all these benefits. And he was like, yeah, like no, and I'm like, wow, because like you won't really have that much of a life outside of it. And he's like, yeah, pretty much. So that was kind of like my one thing is that I pretty much like go and it'd be school, practices, and then if there's a game, obviously games, stuff like that, and then just kind of repeat. And I won't be able to meet anybody else outside of basketball and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot. But at the end of the day, I mean, we would get out of practice or now we get out of practice at 5. So it leaves a lot of time at night. Obviously, it's very different because of COVID restrictions. We really can't see anybody, because if we do get it, we shut down our program for 2 weeks. So all of us are being very, very safe. But I mean, last year we did see a lot of people. I would go over to my friend's dorm, I would go hang out with my friend Isaac, and it really does seem like a lot, but there's a lot of time for interaction. On the weekends after games, we'd have the next day off, so you kind of get to relax. If you go party, you could do that if that's what you're into, or just hang out, just relax, have some time to yourself. You really do have time for it.
Yeah. And actually, something I really took to heart when I think I probably reached out to you for the very first time, like somewhere around a year ago today, or like a year ago, like next week or something like that. And something I will never forget is you told me, because I asked you, I was like, I mean, why are you at Hofstra? Like, why wouldn't you want to go to a Power 5 school or something like that? And you said, well, it's not what it's all about. It's about going to that smaller program where, you can make connections. You could really be a somebody there. And that's why, so when I was at like UCF and USF, like I was asking them, like, is it a family atmosphere, the program? Like, do the managers get good opportunities like right from the start, or is it very limited for freshmen and stuff like that? Because for me, like I'm not. I mean, I don't know if you know like Cypress Bay. Like the school is huge.
Yeah,
like, I love going to a big school, especially since like I think I'm one of the most like well known people in the schools because of everything I do. So I personally like love going to like a big school like that where I see it like someone I never seen before every day. I can make up stories for the new people I see walking in the hallway they never seen before. Like I don't know, I just love going to a big school, and I mean like at least at the moment like I like UCF, I like USF. I like what the coaches told me about being a manager there, but like what sorts of questions should I be asking if I get the opportunity to talk to coaches at these schools, or do I kind of already know like what the right questions are? Because I just feel like, like I just feel like I wouldn't like going to a small school in terms of just like the student population.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. So one question that I would ask, especially if you go to a bigger school, it's not really that it's a bigger school. It's that bigger schools usually have more managers. Like I was looking at Arizona, and they have like 20 plus managers.
Yeah, Arizona's also a blue blood though. That's
Exactly.
considered a blue blood school. Like I'm telling, like I feel like, you like I heard I don't know how good FSU is for manager stuff, and UF I heard I actually spoke to a UF manager today, and it's kind of good, but at least at like UCF and USF, because I remember those ones schools I asked you about, because it's not even about the school in terms of population of students. It's really about the program. Like it could be the biggest school in the world like UCF, but UCF's not this big basketball powerhouse where people are growing up like UCF basketball diehards and are trying to be a manager. I mean, I'll probably get that way like maybe like 5 years from now, but at least for now, it's not like that. That's kind of why school's like a good balance. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just being like, hey, like down the line, obviously I don't expect a lot as a freshman, but as a sophomore, junior, and senior, could I, maybe expect a little bit more responsibility or more helping in the coaching department and what you need? Because, you don't want to be like, oh, like I'm going to do this, this, and this, you want to help them, but only help them with what they need help with, So just knowing your boundaries and then just being like, hey, like down the line, could there be a possibility that I could help do a scout, help clip some things that you need for practice, like sort of things like that. Because if they say, yeah, then that's a great opportunity. Like I'm doing that, first semester of my sophomore year, having more responsibility. I'm the only manager here right now, besides the 2 grad assistants, but pure manager, I'm the only one, just having that responsibility of being the only manager it's great, because they trust me. They didn't feel like they needed to bring in any more managers. And that's just them putting that trust in me really meant a lot.
Yeah. So you're like the only manager for the whole program.
Yeah, so we have two grad assistants that do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm the only pure manager.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, should I like? Do they have online? Like, can I find how many managers these pro? Like, does it kind of have on the website somewhere? Like, how many managers this team have? And if so, like, what's beside? Sure, one's a great number to have, but what's like a good number I should be trying to find in terms of like how many managers does this school have? Like, what's like a good ballpark
Yeah, I
number?
mean, last year we had like four, which I felt was great. We had a lot of people. We had enough people to get the job done. And that's all you need because you still want to travel. I traveled a little bit last year as a freshman, which is really hard to do. Traveling as a freshman. And obviously the basic manager duties, they took a lot of stuff off my shoulders. Just having those people around, and it wasn't like a lot where you felt like you weren't doing anything, like you felt like you were useless. So you want to find like I think like 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8. That's a great number because you still have stuff to do. Like even like loading the bus, like you get there, you're like, oh, it's done. It's like, what did I do? Like I didn't do anything. I feel useless.
Yeah, that really is some like the worst stuff. Like even though like when you think about it, that's why like I'll tell some people like at my school, I'll be like, just go and like walk on a team. Like you gotta, because I know there's some guys like they have the grades, but they may want to play college basketball, so they're gonna kind of pursue that whole dream, and instead of maybe walking on like a big time program where I mean you gotta practice, which is a lot of work too. But during the games, like you practice, then you get a travel with the team, like get all this stuff like you're a player. I mean all the benefits. I mean like, I don't know why you wouldn't do that where you're pretty much just doing nothing technically during games and getting all the benefits. But when I don't know, it is kind of a bad feeling when you just don't do anything. Like I even though like it should be technically smart, like work smarter, not harder. So if you end up doing nothing, like it's as good too. But if you're trying to make a name for yourself, like you want to do the most.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is that possible to find? Like, do they put that on the school's websites? Like how many managers they have? Like when it has like like the roster section or something like that? Or
question. I have no idea, honestly. That's a good thing to look up, but even then, if you find an email, like the director of basketball operations,
they're not going to respond now, like because I know for a fact because I asked one of the coaches that I'm like kind of tight with. I said like, hey, so like yeah, I read this coach. Like, he never responded. He's like, yeah, like they're super busy because of the season, so I'm like probably not gonna reach out to anyone. And if I do, like I'll always say like like I'll follow up with you after the season if you don't respond, or even if you do respond, like well really talk after the season because now I kind of know like they're so busy that they really don't have a chance to kind of have a conversation with a guy like me that's not even at their program yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is tough, especially now. It's conference time. This is really when everything matters. We're like every team is hunting for that conference championship and that automatic NCAA bid.
And I don't know how U School was. I guess this will be my final question. Like I don't know how U School was academically. Like I've never gone there before. Like I don't know how difficult it was. I don't know what classes you were in, and I don't even know how well like Hofstra. Like that's pretty like not like the world's like smartest school, but that's like like you got to be pretty smart to go there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, classes are a little bit, can be difficult, but we have like an academic advisor for our team that really helps us out, puts us in classes where she knows that we'll succeed. So that does really help us out.
Do you get those like benefits that the players get, or is that maybe because you go to a smaller like a pretty small, like a really small program?
Yeah, I feel like
having that stuff, or if I go to, maybe a UCF or a USF or something like that, would I be able to get majority of those player benefits too in terms of like the academic advisor and stuff like that, or not really?
Yeah, I mean it's just reaching out. The person that we have here, she went on a lot of road trips with us last year, just reaching out to her.
So you can like, because so it's legal for me, so if I'm at any program pretty much, like it's legal for me to reach out for helpers, like this is only for the players, like what are you doing?
No, yeah, so she actually has been making my schedule for me. She's been going on road trips with us. I was like, hey, like I'm kind of struggling in school, and she's like, you're literally taking the hardest classes. And like I had no idea, I was just a freshman as a business major, and I was just like, I had no idea. So I ended up completely changing my major in total and just taking better classes for me to help me succeed in the classroom.
What did you end up changing it to?
I did change it to liberal arts, and I have 3 minors in history, linguistics, and sociolinguistics, which is like language stuff.
All right. Then anyway, just like a more general college transition question. Again, like no idea how university school is like in terms of school.
Hmm.
And I don't really have too big of an idea of what Hofstra's like, but I just know like it's not the easiest school to get into. It's not, Harvard level, but like you obviously gotta be pretty
Yeah.
smart to go there. So what was the transition like just academically in terms of high school to college? Like do you feel like it was easier? Do you think it was harder or
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think it was definitely harder, you know. One thing is like, oh yeah, you know, like you see in movies like, oh, all you do in college is party. You gotta take it serious. Like I'll admit, like my first semester grades weren't the greatest at all. And and I was like, wow, like this is real, you know? Like this is college, you know, you really do have to work. And then obviously I've been picking up last semester and this semester I've really been picking my grades back up. Because if I didn't, it'd be a very different story of where I am right now.
so would you say maybe like now in your sophomore year, would you say this is easier than high school or is it still harder? You just kind of understand what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, college I feel like is definitely harder than high school because there's a lot of lecturing into it. So it's really like hours of teachers talking, and then you really do have to pick up on the information because obviously for the finals and the midterms and the tests and all that, it really does help. So it is hard, but you do get used to it. You do get used to it, and it becomes easier. But obviously, it's not like a cakewalk.
Yeah, because I mean I guess it's interesting because I know like even the person I asked today that went to my school, like he said it was easier than like I just know it kind of matters from person to person, but you never know because that's also a big thing too. Like, because at least for me, like as long as my school is fine, like I told you my best day ever would be coming home from a game and with no homework because then that's
Mhm.
all I focus on is about like if, the school has to be there. But I just know like if it's like an easier transition, then that just kind of makes being able to lock in on what I really want to get out of it a lot easier. But anyways, I appreciate you for taking your time.
Of
Do this
course.
with me. It really means a lot. Shared a lot of knowledge. Definitely gonna keep this thing on. Maybe even need to make a post of this, down the road. Have to see where I go in terms of content. But yeah, good luck with the rest of your season. The conference stuff, all that. Any final words before we end this broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, for all my fellow managers out there or becoming managers, a lot of people will, judge you, make fun of you, call you certain things, but in the end, it's what you want to do. If you want to coach basketball, it's what you want to do. And, it's great. People may call you these things, but at the end of the day, they're probably jealous that you're doing what you love, while they're struggling in the classroom. So just don't take it personal, work your butt off and you'll succeed. I promise.
Yeah, honestly, like a big advice to that, at least for me, like I feel like I bring a sort of swagger to being a manager. Like people will say like, oh, like I'm like, yeah, like they're like, oh, are we the team? I'm like, no, like I'm the manager. Like I just kind of bring that sort of swagger and confidence to it, which I mean, it is what you make of it, and that's what things like
Exactly.
that, like UCF. Like I asked about this, like if I'm a freshman, like I get a lot of like experiences. Like it is what you make of it. Like if you want to make being a manager seem like this nerdy thing that unathletic guys do, or guys that just couldn't make a Division I basketball team do because they want to be around basketball, like fine. Or you can make it, like the coolest thing ever, which is kind of what I've turned it into. Like if someone's
Yeah,
on Empire taking pictures of me, like I'll really like post on Instagram like I'm a player. Like
exactly.
I'll make it look like the toughest thing ever. So
Yeah, no, perfectly said.
yeah, but anyways, again, appreciate you for taking the time. Really means a lot. There's definitely a lot of knowledge in this. So if you guys do watch, make sure to give this whole thing a listen. But yeah, man, good luck with the rest of your season. And that's pretty much it, man. Peace out.
All right, peace.